Welcome back to Razmafzar TV. I'm really happy to be here back on our channel and to talk about a very, very important topic. This is, I'm going to show you bronze and iron and also some gold and silver arms and armor in the Heraclean Archaeological Museum in Crete to you. These were weapons of which were wielded once. These weapons were wielded once by the Minoan culture, and Minoan culture, as you see that, were one of the, oldest, if not the oldest civilization here in Europe, is a Bronze Age culture, Minoan. And you can see that I already put some shorts here on this channel. Knossos Palace, which was excavated by the British archaeologist Arthur Evans, who lived from 1851 to 1941 and wrote different volumes on his excavations, not only on Knossos Palace, but on the island of Crete. Not all these weapons you see here, which are excavated, were excavated by him. But I need to say that, unfortunately, I have to say, although he did a good job, great job on excavating these items, although he has been also criticized for the restoration of Knossos Palace, Arthur Evans was a controversial figure. Among them, especially if you go to his, the Wikipedia page and also do some research on him, which is very sad in my opinion, because as a chief archaeologist, as a British chief archaeologist, he also, again, worked and as a spy and spied against the Principality of Montenegro and the Ottomans, which is always sad when I hear and read these type of things, because scientists need to stick to science and academics need to stick to academia. Especially archaeologists who have a large reach to go to different places should refrain from these activities. But anyhow, this is something I wanted to mention because it's not mentioned very often. Only we can read about it a bit on Wikipedia, only the English, not in other languages I speak, interestingly. But you can also read about that in other areas. Anyhow, but then Evans was criticized as well. The reason of being criticized, I'm going also to put some text based also, I will provide you with a link. The reason is that Evans believed that the Minoans were a peaceful culture. I've always, especially the archaeology, they did the same in Iran, in Persian culture, like those bronze weapons, because archaeologists are no weapon specialists. With all respect, in order to understand weapons, you need either to practice yourself swordsmanship, and you need to know how weapons were used, or be a martial artist, especially weapon-oriented martial artists, to understand the mechanics. Imagine you write about the bows and you have never shot a bow. So the same is with the swords. And you need to, for example, imagine if you're not in a good physical shape, then when you put on armor, you think, oh, back then people were very strong. Little do you know that maybe you are not in a good shape. So these things are important to take into consideration. Either you practice yourself or you at least cooperate and collaborate with people who do. The reason I say that, because back then, for example, bronze weapons, the replicas we have, we can do perfect cutting tests with them. Back then, they thought, oh, they don't have real edge, and maybe they were not meant for fighting. They were meant for ceremonies, or they just asked some modern Olympic fencers, and they thought that these swords were not well balanced. I mean, all these, unfortunately, biases and prejudices or stereotypes led to these assumptions that, for example, also in Iran, if you have those books written by some colleagues who thought they were ceremonial pieces. I've always a problem with that. I'm not saying that some swords were not meant for coronations or ceremonies, but remember one thing: I have never seen a sword which was that important to be used in ceremonies or coronations, which doesn't have a very good functional blade, be it a bronze blade, iron blade, or later steel blades. So Arthur Evans believed that they were a peaceful culture even more than a century after his excavation at Knossos. He continues to shape how we understand Minoan civilization. One of his most influential and lasting ideas, enduring ideas, is that the Minoans were a uniquely peaceful people, as I mentioned it. And in his multi-volume works on Knossos, he argued that the island's cultural achievements during the Middle Bronze Age resulted from what he called a pax Minoica, a conscious parallel to Augustus' Pax Romana, which was from back then Pax Romana, and so the Roman imperial peace. This peaceful ideal became central to the modern image of the Minoans. On the opposite, in contrast, the Mycenaeans, often seen as the conquerors of Crete in the 15th century, were cast as the violent opposites, a warlike, aggressive people. But as archaeologist Oliver Dickinson convincingly argues, this dichotomy is not correct, is misleading. The Mycenaeans were no more militarized than other ancient Mediterranean societies, and there is little evidence that the Minoans were unusually peaceful. So you see, these ones are Minoans. Some of these beautiful items which are kept in the Heraclean Archaeological Museum. You see that this dagger has a golden handle, which is pierced. Okay, it was surely wood inside, which or a perishable material which deteriorated and went away. This is a golden axe blade, double axe blade, and you see that this is also an axe blade and in the form of a leopard, and you see that, and also other swords with ivory inserts. This is a very small dagger, is this one, right? Ivory inserts with gold inlayings and so on and so on. Let us go and see some of them. Quartier Mu, 1800 to 1600 BCE. Now, you see, that's what I mentioned, that it shapes or the image of peaceful, which in my opinion and many other colleagues today, archaeologists, they agree with me that it's not correct. So it says, the museum still says, the luxurious swords and daggers found at Malia, which is a city now, they're a beautiful city, by the way, in Malta, excuse me, in Crete, Malia, are intended for display rather than use. A pair of bronze swords was discovered in the north wing of the palace. One has a pommel covered with gold sheathing, decorated with an acrobat. The other sword has a large pommel of elephant ivory. So you see, so there were objects of rank, status, and office and authority for members of the palace hierarchy in the 18 to 1600. Let us, so, the dagger with the elaborate hilt of perforated gold plate was found in Quartier Mu, right? A dagger and yet another large, sumptuous sword were found in a room in the west wing of the palace. The sword has a stone hilt. Okay, that was a stone, not only ivory, right? The stone hilt. We will talk about it later. Covered in gold leaf with dense incised decoration, while the dagger hilt is secured with gold-covered nails, so the rivets. they mean the same room contained the stone scepter handle shaped like an axe at one end and a felon at the other. So you see that here, beautiful. Look at the shape of the blade, how it tapers. Okay, it's bent normal because they were, excavated. And look at the two fullers. They were cast. Bronze blades were cast. Different casting methods. You see that how the handle is not there, but you see the rivet heads and gold leaf on them. Here also gold and stone. And you see that here one, it has a midrib and a very slender and long and strong blade. Really, I mean, I love long bronze swords. Some of them are really as long as a steel sword, and we have the examples also in Iran. This is, remember, behind the protective glass, of course, because I didn't work for this museum. You know that when I work for Iranian museums, I have protective gloves and measure them. I check the balance, and then I check how they were attached, and I write and do my research on them. I haven't worked, it's not my area of research, but I just want you to show you. You need to just take this into consideration that my hand is still, here on this side of the protective glass. So if it gets closer, my hand should be should be considered smaller. And I have a large, strong hands, and big hands. And if you come here and look at it, you see that how big this sword is. Also the handle. Just imagine. So in these daggers, small daggers, as you see here, I show it to you here, these gold leaves. Okay, most of them are missing, but you can imagine they're fluted, how they were here. Also, you see these lines here as well. Solid here. You see the rivet heads on the tank, and then two rivet heads here. So the handle came here, right, which deteriorated. Secured by two rivet heads here, possibly then the handle came like this. We know these examples. Two rivet heads here, and then there was a pommel on top of it. Show to you again this beautiful dagger. This is, I have to say, one of the most beautiful daggers I have ever seen. It doesn't matter, Bronze Age, Iron Age, Steel Age, whatever age you want to say. This is such a beauty. Unbelievable. You see here again, there are some rivet heads here. So this was a partly missing here. And inside surely had other material, be it wood or something which perished. You see the blade, although short, is really strong, and it has a midrib here, as you can see. Here I show it to you a larger picture, so you can have a look at how it is chiseled, and also how you can take a look at it, right? Which is extremely, extremely beautiful, as you can see. So let's go ahead and see the rest of it. We go to Malia, the beautiful city of Malia, 1800 to 1600. Okay, again, Mali, and then you see this is what we had it here, right? This accent. You see how beautiful shape of the animal, possibly large cat, or as I said, a leopard, possibly. Then we have socketed bronze spearhead, lancet, and you see that, okay, part of it is gone, deteriorated, and it has a strong midrib. And another one as well, it is flattened, you see, but look how strong the blade is. Bronze and the long tank. So this is a tanked version of a spearhead. This is a socketed version of a spearhead. And both had their advantages and disadvantages as any other weapon. So here we have a description of the museum. Bronze sword with gold-covered rivets for securing the hilt. The inner sheathing of the sword pommel is decorated with a repoussé acrobat performing a full backward somersault. His depiction in the sword may indicate that the acrobat performed a somersault over a sword sat upright at the risk of his life. References to such leaps of death by both male and female acrobats are found in later ancient sources. So it was Malia Palace, 1800 to 1600. Look at this sword, long, really long. This is this acrobat here, you see that? Here. And beautiful, take a look at that. I showed you that you can see this acrobat here, right? Yes. So the inner sheathing of the sword pommel is decorated, right? Which we don't see it necessarily here, but this, right? This is acrobatic, and you can see also inner sheathing right inside. You can see it here as well, here, the acrobats, right? Here as well, another one, right? You see that? Here you can see this. And this is this, the way they are jumping over it. Beautiful, beautiful one. Then we move to open air sanctuaries and sanctuary at Anemospilia, Archanes, 1700 to 1650 BCE. So what we have here, we have the description of a museum, worship at open air sanctuaries and peak sanctuaries began in the Palatial Period and continued into Neo-Palatial times. Archaeological finds contain categories of votive offerings, both old and new, and then the offerings of the Neo-Palatial period are better made compared to their proto-Palatial counterparts in precious and semi-precious materials. Bronze figurines offering tables, gold and bronze objects, jewelry and seals are dedicated for the first time. Open-air cult is thought to be directly associated with and led by the urban centers, since many votives highlight the elevated social status of the dedicators and reflect their wealth. Among the most important peak sanctuaries are those of Juktas and Kopinas in central Crete and Traostalos and Piskokepalo in East Crete. So let us just move on. Double axes you can find in different archaeological finds there, made of bronze, some of them also made of iron. These are really fascinating ones. As I said to you, these you see lots of warlike things, also weapons, calling them all votives or calling them all for ceremonies is not correct. We need to say, and Minoan material culture frequently also reflects martial topics and themes. The so-called chieftain cup, for example, likely bears symbolic associations with warfare. Numerous seals and gems depict warriors and scenes of combat, while even Atlantic imagery, such as the well-known bull leaping fresco from Knossos, suggests a cultural preoccupation with risk. We saw also this acrobat, right, with risk, strength, and violence. Weapons and other and other martial offerings have also been found at Minoan religious sites like the Zakros Cave, suggesting a ritual significance attached to the implements and tools of war, weapons. So we have then an important sanctuary. This is a description of the museum of the Neo-Palatial period, 1700 to 1650 BCE, has been excavated at Anemospilia next to the Minoan road leading to the Juktas Peak sanctuaries. The building contains 3 rooms of the same size and an antechamber containing a large number of vessels and pitoi. Other finds included a pair of clay feet, apparently from a wooden cult figure, an exquisitely carved agate seal depicting a rower in a boat, an iron ring, and a bucket-shaped ritual vessel bearing a bull in relief in a floral landscape. Inside the building, 4 skeletons were found, 3 in the south room and 1 in the antechamber. A short sword spear with an incised boar's head was found on the remains of one of these 3 skeletons. According to the archaeologist excavator, this weapon had been used as a killing instrument in an act of ritual human sacrifice before the building was destroyed by an earthquake. Take a look at this. You see that? Again. Short sword is spear with an incised, it's actually short sword. Boar's head. This is this incision, boar's head, right? Is there, right? You can take a look at it here. This is here. You see that? Exactly. This is this boar heads here. This is not actually, it's a short sword, definitely. See that it has also two openings here in the blade? This is that. Look at how solid this blade is. Yeah. This weapon, so according to the archaeologists who excavated it, was used as a killing instrument in an act of ritual human sacrifice. Right. We move on. Knossos, Zakros, Hagia, Triadad, 1700 to 1450. So we have here, this is very interesting. I've never seen it like that. This is fascinating. Here from this side, we have oversized bronze crosscut three saws for use by two persons, as indicated by the rivet holes and the remains of the wooden handles at both ends, Knossos, Zakros, and Hagia Triada, 1700 to 1450 BCE. Please take a look at them. These are, let me just show them here. These are saws. You see that, the edges? Look, I can show it to you. Look, can you imagine? These are cast. These are the, for the edges of them, right? Can you imagine that? Such long that two people, it's really long, need to one this side, one the other side, like the modern saws that two people handle that to cut trees. So they made them. Can you believe that? Not a bronze axe, but really long saws. I've never seen to such extent such a long saw from this period. Fascinating. What humanity can do, what humans could do. If you go to Alkalochori Cave, 1700 to 1450, we had a large collection of metal objects used for religious rites and as votive offerings was found in a small cave at Archaeology in central Crete. The collection includes, or the assemblage, copper, ingots, numerous bronze model swords and daggers. They call them model swords, but they're swords and daggers. Large bronze votive double axes, some of them I'm sure they were used, and a wealth of miniature double axes. These are interesting in gold, silver, and bronze, together with pieces of gold foil. However, there are no cult objects such as figurines and offering tables commonly found at contemporary shrines. The reason the objects were placed in such a small cave is not easy to explain. It's hard to explain. They may be a hoard of valuable metal objects hidden due to imminent danger. The large number of weapons, longswords, and daggers may have been votive offerings. Again, remember Evans, this is still influenced by his statements, right? We need to take it with a pinch of salt, made by a prominent group of warriors investing in the ideological value of the weapon as a symbol of status or authority. So 1700 to 1450. Take a look at this double axe. I can guarantee you, as someone who has handled her personally thousands of weapons from different periods, from Copper era to the end of the 19th century, this is a weapon. This is not something which was just used for show. Solid bronze double axe. So we have also ingots, cast copper ingots, the raw materials for workshop production. So these copper ingots, you see that? Unbelievable. Lovely, huh? Also then different parts that you use to melt and to cast bronze. Then we have, look, it's very interesting. Here they don't see it. You know, the museum here, in some areas where you don't see an visible tank, say, oh, they were not meant to be used, which is also not correct because you can attach them differently. But then there are different nicks and notches here. And then they say sword with notches in the edges of the blade from striking. So they were definitely used. You see that? They have these notches, nicks, you see? Okay, this could be due to deterioration, but many of them have. I will show it to you. If you follow many of them, have, look at this. This is a neck. Look at this neck. Obvious edge-to-edge combat, right? Here, you can see it everywhere, right? Look here. Those of you who practice swordsmanship know that. Of course, there are ideas edge to edge, flat to edge, and all these things, but still edge to edge happens. And look, these are definitely nicks. Right, look how deep it went even to the center of the blade, which is as fuller as well. Look, those guys who say, "Oh, you need a tank," these are these two holes you could have attached it, right? Like this come here, still can remain solid. Another double axe, another one. Look how solid these double axes are. And this is also chiseled on the surface, sorry. Beautiful. Part of it is gone due to oxidization. Look at this one as well, double axe. I've never seen so many double axes as I did in Crete, in Heraclean Archaeological Museum. Look at this one, beautiful. Look at this one, chiseled as well. You can see more axes here. I mean, how many axes, double axes they have? Look, these are the really huge size. These are, if you can say, normal double axes, which we see also in other cultures. These are huge ones. But look, they have also very small symbolic ones. Possibly these ones were short, maybe as a currency, I don't know. No one knows actually, or as a symbol or votives, as they call it here. Look at them. These are normal double axe sizes. And now here, these are the small ones. These are made of bronze. Some of them are made of iron. But look at them. These are gold. Can you believe that? And silver. I'm going to show you some of them. Right. And look, this is the handle of the axe was shoved in, put in, right? Made of wood, possibly. Some of them have also an extension made of metal, bronze, copper alloy. And these ones were, of course, used as currency or as a symbol or votives. Look at the beauty of them. You will not believe it. They're small. They're small. Let me just show it to you again. Look at the sizes. This is a normal double axe. And look at these, how small they are. Some of them are not that small, but still small. They're made of gold. Look at how beautiful. Look at the intricate design. You could just make a hanger. You can just make a piece of jewelry today with that as a model. So I would like ask jewelers to please do that. Look how beautiful it is. Okay, this silver ones, unfortunately, is gone. You know, they're just this one has only fragments left. But look at the silver ones. So the gold ones. So then again, here it comes to that area where I mentioned it before. They call it model swords, which I'm not the only one. More and more archaeologists, weapon analysts disagree with that. Thin-bladed votive swords. What does it mean, thin-bladed? I mean, they're not that thin, right? So large swords reinforced with a milled rib, but with an impractical tang. I mention it to you. Doesn't need to have that tang. Some of them even do, lacking hilt attachment holes, an indication that they were intended as offerings. Well, again, opinions differ. Archaeological Cave, 1700 to 1450 BC. Look, these are those which our colleagues refer to. No holes for the rivet heads and no tank. But look, our colleagues forget. Please look at them. They have tanks. So based on what you say, I mean, look, the handle comes and covers it. They had the adhesive material. And adhesive material also, if you have in sorry, early modern times, or also for the, let's say, 1780, I don't want to use these European terms, but okay, 17, 18, 16, I mean, look at the toll bar handles. They have also only adhesive material, right, with a short tank. And it really is a very functional weapon. Maybe they have used the same. They have also short tang, and then the handle, we know it from examples in Iran, which comes and covers that area, right? And they have a short tang. So just concentrating on them, maybe the method of attachment for them was different. Or maybe they made the blades, as one of colleagues from the University of Kiel wrote on his webpage. And then later on, when they wanted to use them, they drilled holes in them, then they attached them, right? Please. And look at, again, those ones which are here. Look, these ones have necks. They have a tank. But you cannot have just general descriptions as votives for all of them. Beautiful blades, anyhow. Look at them. Really, really beautiful. These ones as well. Long, solid blades. Now, we move on to inscribed double axe from this cave, Archaeological. Votive inscribed bronze double axe. The inscription is arranged in 3 columns, right? Running down the central socket of the axe. Certain signs are similar to those on the fascistos disc, while others resemble linear A. They have 2 writings, linear A and B signs. So Archaeological Cave, 1700 to 1450 is unbelievable. So you can see what the writings are. These are derived from this one. Can I show you some other sorts? Look, this one, as I mentioned, has its holes. Look how where the holes are drilled. So the handle comes here, right? And now again, look at this one. Beautiful. More double axes for you to see. Can do a comprehensive study on double axes. Also, due to oxidization, they look differently. Some of them are chiseled, some of them have a plain surface. And so many blades here. I think a work, a PhD or whatever needs to be written, or a book on classifying all these weapons. There are some articles, or some very nice articles, but to give them a solid foundation and comparison, as I have in my books on Persian weapons, to have the length, width, and also the weight, and compare them to each other. Look at these. I love these double axes. Really unbelievable. And these chiseled ones as well. Was from this cave. Look at this chiseling here. Unbelievable. Also shorter blades there. So we go to new Palatial Period. And this new Palatial Period, this is 1650 to 1450. And also you see again, double axe, excuse me, this is one, one double axe here, and axe, because this is where the axe handle goes in. Look at this dagger. What does it remind you of? Of a Persian or Scythian akinaka, right? Unbelievable. Then we go to